Welcome to Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by SportBuff. I am your host, Tim Capper, along with Cliffy D. Hey, we didn't get tired of each other driving up and back from Ottawa on our impromptu trip to Ottawa, did we?
We sure did not, and I didn't think we would, to be honest with you. It was definitely a last minute decision for us to go to Ottawa and see the game, but I'm so glad we did it. It was definitely an excellent time.
That's right. I mean, and you know, it's perfect, almost perfect timing from when we're taping, when we are actually taping this, hey, 55 years ago, Cliff, to the day, Star Trek started. Wait a minute. Nope. Well, hold on. Wrong. It's not Star Trek Day. Hold on. It actually is, but no, that's not what we're here to talk about. Almost 55 years to the day, Montreal played. This is a real stretch. At home versus Edmonton. And lost 8-3.
Talk about a barn burner.
Woo! Where is that game played? Was it played at Percival Molson? It was played at Percival Molson Stadium. All right. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. I mean, met up with some great people. It was nice to sit with the fans. We got to give a couple of shout outs, obviously, too. But I think that considering, it's been a rough month for Alouettes Nation and when it comes to current and former owners of the Alouettes. But we have to at least talk about Mr. Robert Wetenhall because, hearing that he had passed just this past Friday and it only came out yesterday in the media, we would not be able to talk about, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel about this, Cliff, but we would not be able to talk about going to see the Alouettes play in Ottawa if it wasn't for this gentleman and the legacy that he created in Montreal and in Quebec when it comes to pro football.
Oh, 1,000%. I'll even go so far as to say, if you're a fan of Canadian football in general and Canadians playing football, you wouldn't see a lot of what you currently see nowadays if it wasn't for Bob Wetenhall and his contributions, not just to the city of Montreal, but also to the Canadian Football League as well. I mean, you think about where Quebec football has grown over the past 25 years, how far it's come along. You look at guys like Laurent Duvernay-Tardif going to the NFL, winning a Super Bowl. Like this, also he started this, like watching Alouettes football after the Alouettes came back. He ends up going to play football. He ends up making it big in the NFL, becoming a doctor. Winning a Super Bowl is like such a tremendous accomplishment. And there's so many talented Quebec-born football players that, again, within the past 25 years, are all directly related to this Alouettes team coming back and becoming the successful powerhouse that they had become. And you can pretty much thank Robert Wetenhall for that because it was because of him owning the Alouettes, because of sparing no expense whatsoever when it came to promoting the team, developing Quebec football the way it has been. You can thank Mr. Wetenhall for all of that. Like you can pretty much tie him directly to all that, as well as the growth of the Canadian Football League over the past 20 years is directly attributed to his contributions, along with David Braley of the BC Lions, who's also no longer with us.
Yep.
Those two essentially spearheaded the board of governors when it comes to the Canadian Football League, and their contributions to this sport, to this league, are immeasurable as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, when you talk about like all the exciting things that you see nowadays when it comes to football in the Canadian Football League and beyond, a lot of it is due to the resurgence of the Montreal Alouettes, led by one Mr. Robert Wetenhall.
Yeah, for sure. And we were hearing all the interviews that were done yesterday in local English media, and that was all the accolades and well wishes that came out on social media from both on the English and French side. It's hard not to look back at what might have not happened. Because I learned something new yesterday. I did not know that Mr. Wetenhall had been asked to buy the team originally in '96. I did not know that. So, we were lucky enough, for him to balk in '96 for football in Montreal to basically disappear after being back for 1 year because of the. I understand how everybody was talking about this on social and on the radio yesterday, but to me, it's an ineptitude of Michael Gelfand and Jim Spiros. I know Jim Spiros is loved, but it just looks like these two gentlemen were not able to do what was necessary to keep the Alouettes going as they were in '96, and we almost lost them because the league took over the team again, and luckily, Cliff, that Bob Wetenhall decided to have a change of heart and to buy the Alouettes. And again, Alouettes football and Quebec football have were greatly improved just by that alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, as I said before, like you can directly tie a lot of the growth of football in this province to Robert Wetenhall owning the Montreal Alouettes. Mm-hmm. And he did it selflessly. Like he just wrote the checks. I mean, he never meddled in anything. He never tried to have his input in anything. He just, he trusted his football people, guys like Jim Pop, the coaches, when it was his time, Anthony Calvillo. Like he trusted all these individuals to do what they do best. Mm-hmm. And he footed the bill and did it with a smile on his face. And he was thusly rewarded. I mean, look, the Alouettes have participated in his tenure, in 8 Grey Cups and won 3 of them. I mean, that's remarkable.
Yeah.
In a 20-year span. Like that is absolutely remarkable to be able to say that. And it really does speak to, like, this is why we have to pay tribute to him. This is why we have to recognize everything that he has done for Alouettes Nation, for the city of Montreal, for the province of Quebec, for the Canadian Football League as a whole. Everything, all of the success tied into the Alouettes is a direct result of Robert Wetenhall cutting those checks and saying, okay, you do what you got to do. I'll gladly pay for it. I just want to see the results.
Exactly. And, because of what he did, his peers, and voted him into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame in 2015. I think he was as a builder, right? I think that's what.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, as a builder. So I mean, you don't vote somebody into the Hall of Fame if they do not have a career or made a huge impact on the CFL. Period. Absolutely.
And again, it's undeniable the impact that his ownership tenure had with the Montreal Alouettes. I mean, putting him in the Hall of Fame is an absolute no-brainer as a builder, because yes, he did help not only build the Alouettes, but also help build this Canadian Football League. He was a big part of the Board of Governors, as I said, along with David Braley and working with the other teams in that. Like these are the guys that helped shape the Canadian Football League into what it is. I mean, without their generosity, without their support, and dare I say, without their checkbooks,
yeah,
we'd be talking about. We wouldn't be talking about the CFL. Quite frankly, it would be a distant memory, like all the other failed leagues that have come and gone over the past 40, 50 years.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Wetenhall is the second longest tenured owner. Sorry, the longest tenured owner in Alouettes pro football history. He's top of the list with only Sam Berger, I think. No, sorry, Ted Workman being second, and then Sam Berger being third. So it shows for longevity, and that's what this team needed. We would not be able to see what was done for, when it came to expansion at Percival Molson. You could only imagine what could have happened if he hadn't been our owner. That coupled with him wanting to make sure that he hired the coaches and letting Jim Pop do what he did. The genius that he is. It's again, football would not be. We wouldn't be talking about the game, dude. You and I would not be doing this podcast. I can almost I can almost guarantee it. We would not be doing this podcast if Bob Wetenhall had not bought the team. But
No.
unlike from what we heard, it seemed like Herzog had a good relationship. What about you, Cliff? I mean, I had just one interaction with him where I got to meet him. But I want to find about yours. I think yours is I think probably a little bit more. Do I say lengthy, quote unquote, lengthy than mine is?
Well, yes, I've been blessed to have met Mr. Wetenhall on a number of occasions, and always had time for a quote unquote fan, which I thought was always cool. Like back when I considered myself a fan of this product, it was just really cool to be able to say that I got to speak with the owner of the Montreal Alouettes. Yeah. And, we'd sit and we'd talk, like not for very long, but, again, I don't think he'd know me from a hole in the wall, but, he kind of recognized me a little every time I'd see him, like, how are you doing? And how's the family kind of thing like that. And just, we'd talk about the game, good or bad. And it was always a pleasant experience. Like I said, he took the time to really listen to, like, he was really interested in what this punk kid had to say. And I always took it to heart. Like, wow, that's really amazing that he, at least he seemed to care enough about, what did I think? And I remember there's a couple times too, like real stinkfest games, like just awful games. And, I'd see him afterwards, hello, how are you? And he's like, listen, don't give up, man. This team is special. It's special. We're going to get this right. We're going to get this right. And damn it, I believed it. Like that was just, hey, if Mr. Wetenhall said it, it's got to be true. Like they're going to get themselves right. And I agreed with him. I said, yeah, well, it's going to happen. And sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. But again, like his enthusiasm, his love for this team, his passion for the sport is unrivaled as far as I'm concerned. I even remember too, to talk about it, just the kindness and generosity from him is during after the first Grey Cup win, I went and I got a picture taken with my Grey Cup T-shirt with a mall Santa, and I sent it over to him as kind of a thank you for helping build this Alouettes team. And he wrote me back a very nice letter saying, thank you so much for your support. We definitely appreciate fans like you. This is absolutely tremendous. And during the Eastern Final of 2010, I knew I was going to Edmonton for the game, and I was looking forward to it. I happened to bump into him at the pretty much in the bowels of Olympic Stadium.
Right.
And I reminded him, like, hey, last year I sent you a Christmas card with a Grey Cup photo with Santa Claus, and I want to be able to do that again for you. And he looked at me and said, I want you to do that for me again. I'm going to make sure that you will be able to do that again. Sure enough, the Alouettes win the Grey Cup again. I do the same thing, go to the exact same mall with my 2010 championship T-shirt. Got a photo with Santa Claus again. Sent it to Mr. Wetenhall. I said, a promise is a promise. Here you go. A few weeks later, I get another piece of mail, a letter in the mail from the office of Robert Wetenhall. Like, oh my gosh. Opens up, it's like, you sure are a man of your word. And it's just like, I don't remember the exact details. I have to dig up the letter to find it all. But he, same idea. It was just that, thank you again for the support. We definitely appreciate you being a part of this organization. And, it's fans like you that help keep us going, kind of thing. Like it was just so nice. It was just a really kind thing. Like for the owner of a football team to do that is tremendous. And as I said, the few times I was able to see Mr. Wetenhall after games was always nice. Just a brief interaction, just to be able to say hello to him and all that, and thank him for everything he's done for this organization. I don't think we can even begin to truly thank him, even in passing, that of everything that he's done for this organization is like I said, it's immeasurable. It really is. I mean, you said it. We would not be here doing this podcast. I wouldn't be writing this blog. We wouldn't have Grey Cup paraphernalia from 2009, 2010, or even 2002 if it wasn't for Robert Wetenhall and his family buying the Alouettes and running it through good times and bad. And it really does speak to the character of this man and his generosity to be able to keep this team going. And even towards the end, like when things were not that great, and the Wetenhall family was looking to get out of the football game, I understood, and I'll never say a bad word about Mr. Wetenhall for sure. I know I've been a little critical about his son Andrew running the team, the way that it's been done, but I also understand, like looking back now, like I realized like he had some massive shoes to fill, and perhaps realized that maybe I can't quite do it the way my dad did, and it was just better off to sell the team back to the Canadian Football League and let them find owners who can do the Alouettes justice the same way that his father did. So, it's tough to know. Like you knew Mr. Wetenhall's health wasn't great towards the end. He was looking like a man in his late 70s, early 80s, and his health was perhaps not the greatest. And he was still there though. He was still at every game that he was a part of, and it was still good to see him no matter what. And now knowing that he's at peace, and I hope he understands and realizes just how much of an impact he had on everyone in Alouettes Nation. I mean, it was not easy to go through the bad times. It's easy to go through the good times and still sign those checks. But he saw this team through thick and thin. You can truly say that he saw this team through the good times and the bad times. And for everything he's done for this organization, for this city, for the league, for the Canadian Football League, I mean, I can't thank him enough for everything he's done for us.
Yes, I agree. And as I said, my history, and I've always been the type of guy, Cliff, and you know this from knowing me for as long as you have it. I usually will let people just go amongst them. I don't fanboy them. I'm just the type of person who will let them go about their way. Just say, hey, thanks for everything, and usually that's it. But I kind of wish I did what you had done. I just guess I never thought of it, but in my way. The only time that I got to meet him was at one of the season ticket holder events. It was when they were doing the Alouettes Alliance, if I remember correctly, and they had it downtown, and they held the event downtown, and it was a Q&A session like they had, and that was the one time that I was able to shake his hand, say hello to him. I remember specifically the gentleman, he had a cold that day. I remember that very vividly. But it was still nice to tell him and to thank him, that being a fan as long as I have, that I was grateful for him for buying the team. So, I said, not as flashy as your interaction, but still, nonetheless, being able to say that I met Bob Wetenhall, and again, we're grateful. We're grateful for him for him purchasing the team when he did. Had a change of heart in '97. I'm curious, so many stories that I'm sure that could be told. That, hearing that the other day, I think Herb Zurkowski was mentioning, and I think it was mentioned a couple of times too on TSN 690. I'm curious to know a little bit more about that. I wish I could know more about that story. Why did he back away in 96, but yet decided to say yes in 97? It's interesting. It really makes you think.
Well, and let's not forget too, he was also the owner of the New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. So like he knew about what it took to own a football team, professional football team. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he must have had some trepidation, especially too like coming up to Canada of all places to be a part of professional football. Maybe that was one of the reasons why maybe he initially balked at the idea. But then I guess once he saw what this team was all about, maybe he had a chance to finally come and see the city and see what Alouettes fandom was all about. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe that's what it was for him to decide to go ahead and do it.
I was about to say 96 would not have been the year to do it.
Well, maybe
not.
Have
been the year to do it. You and I both know this. At 96, with the game still being played at the Big O, where we averaged whatever we did, well, it was, I think 97 was even worse, but still was a farce. He had the idea, or was convinced to move back. Thank God for you too. All this is in the lore, in the legacy of Bob Wetenhall.
It is.
If it wasn't for you two also being a part of this, we wouldn't be back at Percival Molson. They wouldn't have moved back to Molson in back in 97.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about all the what if scenarios. I mean, and again, there's not one scenario where I can think of where this team would still be alive in 2021 without everything that had taken place. Mm-hmm. Whether it's Bob Wetenhall deciding to own the team, you two pulling rank as far as wanting to play at Olympic Stadium and forcing the Alouettes to have their playoff game at Percival Molson Stadium pretty much at the last minute. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's incredible. Just the story of this franchise is it's a fantastic one, and knowing that he was at the helm of it for so long is remarkable. I mean,
well, it's just a matter of looking back. We wouldn't, all the things that we may not have done as CFL and Alouette fans. I wouldn't have taken part in the TSN commercial shoot back in 2010. I wouldn't have been a part of that.
There you go. And it's funny, Tim. I looked at a lot of the tributes that were posted online from all sorts of people, like whether it's media personalities, former players, even former employees of the Montreal Alouettes. I have not seen one negative thing about Mr. Wetenhall. It was always positive. It was always how warm, how personable he was, how he was willing to do. He wanted you to succeed, and if there was any way that he could help you do so, he'd be willing to do it. I mean, it's remarkable what like the love and the outpouring of emotion for this man is tremendous to see, and not at all surprising. Like I said, my interactions with him have always been 100%. And like I said, if he was a jerk to somebody, that person must be dead too, because we don't know about it. I'm only seeing positive. I mean, did he ever have a bad day? Maybe, but you'd never know about it. I mean, at least not as far as I said, anyone who's even just mildly associated with the Montreal Alouettes. Just nothing but positive, nothing but warm, kind, wonderful messages about what this man meant to the city and to this team.
Yeah, and they just, I agree. I read quite a few of them, and it wasn't just Alouette players either. I mean, it was people that knew him, was able to work with him. It was, Rick Moffat as an example. So I want to say a lot of players. I mean, you hope that when you own a team, that you carry a legacy, a positive legacy. People can what will be, as an example, say what will be Bob Kraft's legacy? Will be a positive or negative? Football aside, football winning aside,
right?
Same thing with Jerry Jones. What will be the legacy? Mm-hmm. So I'm happy that he was an Alouettes owner. I'm glad I was able to meet him, and it's really weird to say, but Gary Stern kind of does have, so far from what we've seen, seems to be okay, but he has some big shoes to fill as the new Alouettes owner. So,
without question, and only time's going to tell if he'll be that kind of owner for the Alouettes, like Mr. Wetenhall was. I mean, it's a pretty, like, the bar was set pretty high, mm-hmm. And as I said, we'll see as the years go by how Gary Stern owns and operates his football franchise. I mean, he kind of walked into a tough situation. As soon as he and his father-in-law took ownership of the team, he kind of fell into a pandemic, which no fault of their own, just sort of happened. But they still paid the bills. They still made sure that people were taken care of. Now they've got a chance to see the team in action. So I mean, it's now this is Gary Stern's opportunity now to be that leadership voice, to be the owner that this team desperately needs to succeed. I don't know if anyone's going to truly expect him to be exactly like Mr. Wetenhall was, and I don't think it'd be a fair comparison. I think he just has to, just maybe follow the example of, trust in the people that you've hired. Make sure that you hired the right people. Let them do their job, and just keep cutting the checks, and the results will come. Mm-hmm. I do feel that with this Alouettes team that we currently have right now, I think the pieces are definitely in place. It's just a matter of just letting them do their thing. And I think for the most part, Gary Stern seems to be willing to do that. So if he continues in that vein, it'll be just like with Mr. Wetenhall. And look how well things were. Look the good times that this Alouettes franchise knew under Mr. Wetenhall's reign. I mean, you saw the results, folks. I mean, there's like I said, 8 Grey Cup appearances, 3 victories. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. So if Gary Stern can help build this team back up to that, to get back to multiple Grey Cup appearances and even wins, then he'll be cementing himself a great legacy of his own as well.
Yep, I agree. So thank you quite a bit from the bottom of our hearts and from Alouettes Nation. Thank you, Mr. Wetenhall, for everything you did for Montreal, for the province, and for this team. May you rest in peace.
We speak your name.
Hey, this is Rick Moffat, former voice of the Montreal Alouettes, and you're listening to The Flight Deck.
Just to remind everybody, Cliff, that we are on social media. You can find us many, many places, including some new ones, by the way, which we're gonna mention in this show. I don't think we mentioned it last week, but or did we? But basically, if you miss any of our shows, you can go to the full archive over at alouettesflightdeck.ca. That's www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can check us out over on Twitter. That's at AlouettesFLDeck. You can find Cliff at CliffyD, and you can find me at Repact. That's REPPACT. And there's also a multitude of other places you can find us too, right, Cliff?
Absolutely. I'd say pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find us. Just search the keywords Alouettes Flight Deck, and don't forget to check us out on YouTube as well. Make sure you look for the Alouettes Flight Deck podcast by searching Alouettes Flight Deck on YouTube. And also, let's not forget, too, that the Alouettes Flight Deck is a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network. Looks like all the shows are pretty much back in full swing. There's some great stuff out there. Make sure you check them out. You can find pretty much every show on Twitter at CF Pod Network. And we're so grateful to be a member of that association. And I'm telling you, folks, there's so many good podcasts out there, and we're so thankful to be a part of that network, that great network.
Yeah. Also, as I mentioned before, I can't remember if we did. There's a new social media, audio network similar to the other, the other video ones that had 15-second clips, and then from there. But these are 15-second audio clips. You can see them on our social media, but it is at iLily. And that you can find them at, I think it's iLily, that's ILILLI.co. Quite a few of the Canadian Football League voices are on this platform. And it's, hey, the cool thing about it is it's Canadian made out of Halifax. What better way? It's, hey, you get us in long form here. There you can get us in short 15-second clips, so you don't have to listen to us talk and talk and talk.
Exactly. And listen, folks, you can check it out. I mean, it's, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's going to become the next the next step, so to speak, in the evolution of social media. So be sure you check them out. They've got so much great content, especially for CFL folks. I mean, so many great CFL voices, as Tim was saying, are a part of this, and now we're a part of that as well. So make sure you check it out. Get on there, become a part of the conversation as well. And that's the beautiful thing about it is you don't have to be a media member to join. Yeah. You just sign up for an account, and you too can share your thoughts and be heard by all sorts of people. Yep. That are associated with the Canadian Football League and other topics as well. I mean, it's a great platform. Be sure to check it out. Tell them the Alouettes Flight Deck sent you.
Yeah. Also, as we mentioned last week, we did have a another giveaway thanks to our gracious partner over at SportBuff. Again, if you can, go over to sportbuffshop.com and see what they have as far as CFL merch and everything. Chris and Gary are really, really nice guys, and it's good to support Canadian. That's the most important part. But for the cap that we gave away, we already mentioned out and announced it on social media, but at least want to let you know that Kyle Zenklusen, Kyle, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name properly because I'm that type of person. 2, if my last name is not pronounced properly. Anyways, congratulations, Kyle, on winning the cap. Make sure you send us a DM on social media, on Twitter specifically, and with your deets, and we'll make sure that we get the cap out to you as soon as possible. So congratulations once again.
Yeah, and stay tuned, folks, because there's always giveaways to be had. So we're very thankful to be partnered with SportBuff. They've got great stuff, great gear, and if we can share even just a little bit of that with you folks, we're all for that. So make sure you tune in, check it out, show these guys the love, and keep on listening to the Alouettes Flightdeck.
Yeah. We were talking about iLily. You use it quite a bit, but it was totally a spur of the moment thing for us to head over to Ottawa. When you finish work, and we made, I couldn't believe it. I mean, before finding parking, we made very damn good time to Ottawa. I'll tell you that much. I was like, oh yeah, we're going anyways. But I mean, it's still, we made it, and I think we just missed one series each, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I mean, we technically got there for kickoff, but not quite.
Right. But first and foremost, by the way, we got to give a shout out to Rayshon Simonize, because if it wasn't for him being able to get tickets, which we were automatic, we had already started, we were going to be buying them just for full transparency, but we had an opportunity, and we want to thank Rayshon for the tickets, and hey, we were able to sit with all the Alouettes fans.
Exactly. The friends and family. It's funny. Section FF at TD Place. I jokingly call it, friends and family, because that's what FF is.
Yeah,
but that is typically where your opposing teams, the Red Blacks opponents, that's where their friends and family are going to sit. So I think what better place would be than FF?
Yeah, exactly. No failing grade there, even though if it is a double F. Wow, what can we say about this game? It was a game, I think, that the Alouettes really did need to win. If you remember, people remember last week, I was really, it really reminded me of the Canada Day game versus the Renegades so many years ago, that it was a game that, were they going to go into this game thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a pushover, and then they get beat? That really was not the case. This Alouettes team came out on fire. I'm sure a little ticked off based on what happened with the game versus Hamilton. And man, 80 total points in this game. The Alouettes scored 50 points for the first time. I think it was since in the regular season since 2010. Wow, this was just a complete A game by the Alouettes through and through.
Mm-hmm. I think they were pissed off. I think they were extremely pissed off with the absolutely banal effort that they gave against the Hamilton Tiger Cats at home. And I think they went into this game with a chip on their shoulder. And sometimes you got to do that. And the Alouettes have done this before. They play an absolutely terrible game at home. They go on the road to Ottawa just in a foul mood. Just, they hear the haters. They hear all the negative commentary. And it just builds up inside you. And then sometimes the only way to feel good is to make someone else feel bad. And that's what they did this past Friday against Ottawa. It was just make them feel bad, because they just walked in there and punched them in the face over and over and over again. You want to talk about someone who was inspired? Our quarterback, Vernon Adams, was a man on fire. And he looked amazing. I mean, he did not look timid. He did not look like he was doubting. He was connecting with everybody. Everything was just falling into place for VA. He played an absolutely phenomenal game. I mean, it was like surgical the way he cut up the Red Blacks. It was absolutely amazing just the way he connected with the receivers. He put William Stanback to use.
Yes.
Very good use. I mean, he opened up every facet of the offensive game. I mean, it was night and day compared to what we saw versus Hamilton. I mean, like, you talk about a bounce back game for big play VA. This was it. I mean, Vernon Adams put the team on his back like he normally does, and he just walked in there, and I could tell he wanted to shut everyone's mouth. Because, again, as soon as he started to falter, you hear the critics, you hear the haters. Everybody's starting to doubt him. He wasn't having any of that. You could see it in his eyes. You can see it in the way he played, the way he commanded the pocket. Mm-hmm. He wasn't having any of this nonsense. He was coming. He was there on a mission, and I'd say mission accomplished. Like he is back. Vernon Adams, that we know, the one that we saw out in Edmonton, who was in complete control. The one we saw in the first half, essentially, of that Calgary game. Yep. That VA is back. Yeah. And I'm all for it. Like, it couldn't have come at a better time, quite frankly.
I agree. As I mentioned, so the final score, 50-51-29. The Alouettes score 50 points for the 12th time in their history in the regular season, 14th overall, including the postseason. That postseason game was in 2014 versus BC, where they shellacked the Lions 50-17. And an interesting note, I know we have a bye week this week, Cliff. But an interesting note, just for those who are curious to know about this type of stuff, the Alouettes are 8-4-1 in their next game after scoring 50-plus points during the same season. So could easily bode well. I mean, and I thought, you know what? By the way, how many times have you seen a game in Ottawa?
Oh, gosh, several. And I'm not just talking about like Red Blacks games. I mean, I've also seen the Alouettes play the Renegades, and even one time seen them play the Rough Riders.
Oh, wow.
I'm showing my age there.
No kidding. Yes. Well, even I haven't seen the Rough Riders. Wait a minute. Yeah. I'm older than you. It's funny. I think every time I go see I think my last time to go see a game, the Alouettes, and it's funny, we're just so close to go see the Owls play in Ottawa. I think it was in 2016. That's how long. And the funny thing was, it was a shellacking like this was. So, I mean, the atmosphere was great. I mean, only announced 15,000 people. I know we at least have to talk about this before we talk about the stats, which I'm sure everybody knows already, but it makes a huge difference when the stadium itself has seats next to each other. Real seats compared to the benches that are over at Percival Molson. Mm-hmm. Besides the people running back, walking back and forth, and us having to get up, and you and I, at one point, I was like, okay, just move to the side and let them out. But yeah. But I don't know. It just seemed to be different. I didn't feel like I did at the home opener. I mean, yes, we still wore our masks. A lot more people were wearing masks as far as I could see at this game. Mm-hmm.
But we even had an usher going up and down the stairs with a little sign reminding people to stay masked up.
Even on the what was it? It was Bane from the Batman movies. You should remember to please wear your masks. I felt a lot better. I mean, I'm again, we'll talk about it again next week, I'm sure, leading into the very first game at Percival Molson with the passport, with the vaccine passport. But great. It was a great atmosphere, win or lose. I mean, and I mentioned this to you too. And please, anybody who's been to both Percival Molson and to TD Place, I swear the lights are different. I remember you and I coming out from under the overhang, and it was like, oh, it was like it goes from not dark, but it went from not dark to really, really bright.
Yeah, it's like they sprung for the CFL bulbs, no pun intended.
Oh, so, but yeah, overall, I mean, great atmosphere. We got to see Cam. I mentioned him last week. He's the guy who who was the manager of the boutique here in Montreal. He's now doing the same thing for Ottawa. It was just great atmosphere, and I'm really glad that I guess I convinced you to go to the game. I'm one who asked you, so I'm glad we went. So.
No, it definitely made for a great trip for sure. The atmosphere at TD Place is always good. One thing I did find though, and I was pleasantly surprised about, is you don't seem to have that desperate need to make noise. Like people, again, I'm going to preface this by saying that Ottawa, unfortunately, is notorious for still making noise on offense when they shouldn't be. So it's not like they have to encourage people to make noise because they seem to do it on their own. They make noise when the defense is on, but they also make noise when the offense is on too. And this is clearly a CFL thing. It has to be. I just don't get it. I could live to be 100. I will never understand why fans do this.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I really don't know, but it was fun. That's all I could say. It was really nice being back in Ottawa for a game, and but I mean, and it was obviously fun because the Alouettes won.
That always helps.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just to get over the stats, I mean, the Alouettes finally scored, even to Herb Zurkowski's pleasure. The Alouettes finally scored in the third quarter this year, first time all year that they had scored in the third. But complete. Do not let the 29 points fool you that the Alouettes gave up, because garbage time points, along with some questionable calls by the Alouettes defense at that point. Still, it was still an utter shellacking. So I mean, VA himself went 18-23, 288 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks.
Nope.
Longest was 44 yards, 3 passes over 30. I mean, I think he had a perfect efficiency rating. Stanback, 15 yards, 15 carries, 112 yards, an average, Cliff, of 7.5.
That's huge. That's well over his average of 6.2.
Yep. And a very surprised touchdown from Armando Sewell.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that was like the cherry on top.
After such
a phenomenal performance, let the big guy get in there and get a touchdown. Why not? At this point, you're playing with house money, so it was awesome, especially coming off of a pick as well. I mean, mind you, there was a couple of picks throughout the game from Ottawa, but it was definitely nice to see Mondo get that tutty, as they say.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Eugene Lewis led the team with 5 receptions on 6 targets for 120 yards and 2 phenomenal touchdowns. But we also have to give props also to Jake Winicky. 7 receptions, 8 targets, 118 yards, and he too had 2 receiving touchdowns, which were phenomenal also. These guys are just on. I mean, everything that they could do right, they did right, and it was nice to see. I mean, Vernon, I mean, hell, again, only attempted 23 passes. So,
no, but the error that he got, especially under Gino's second touchdown, he dropped it right in the bucket,
right in there.
A dime, an absolute dime.
It was like that pass in Calgary where he it was like an out route, go to the pylon, and him hitting the pylon in that game. It was almost like that.
Yeah, except this time he actually hit a player in the hands, touchdown. We like those.
Yeah, the game was good itself. I mean, Matt Nichols did not do very well for Ottawa. It was when Dominique Davis really came in that they began to shine. So I mean, it's there's still a lot of work to do. I mean, the defense was phenomenal. Again, I think the only thing that really did not go well for the second straight game again is with Mario Alford. After week 1, these teams know what to do.
Oh yeah, like it's not a fluke. I mean, like you saw what he did in 2019, and
Mm-hmm.
then you saw that first game against the Elks where he torched them for a touchdown. And now the teams you have to game plan for this guy, and they are. And I mean, they're keeping him honest. I mean, he's going to break out sooner or later again. But he's been pretty much kept in check the past couple of weeks.
Yep.
So I mean, that's one area of the game that could have gone a little bit better for Montreal. Also, too, I found that the tackling on defense, especially towards the end, was getting very lackadaisical.
Oh God,
like,
yes.
You're not playing two-hand touch, guys. You actually have to wrap up and finish your tackles.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you on that one. Both Woody Barron and David Menard had a sack each. We were talking about interceptions, 3 of them. One a tip drill for Greg Reed. One to Jermaine Grace. By the way, which was a surprise to us because he was called on a penalty. We were like, who the hell is not 0-0?
0-0, yeah.
It's like, where did that come from? And then Patrick Levels, who brought a glorious pick six. Glorious pick six on an errant pass by Dominic Davis. I mean, but it was, I swear, he was trying to sidearm it, and it was like, Patrick Levels was like, pick.
Yeah, and only his second game of the season too. I mean, like this guy has just found his form in a big way, and like just didn't miss a step. It was absolutely tremendous, and just took it right to the house. And I was worried too because there was a flag on the play. I'm like, oh crap! Don't let this come back. Don't let this come back. Sure enough, it was holding against Ottawa. I was like, all right, that's a pick six, folks.
Yep, exactly. I mean, there were some negatives to this game. Everything wasn't 100% for this team. As you mentioned before, Cliff, the tackling, which just at times was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's easy for us to say, but I mean, it was like, what are you doing?
I mean, I don't know how often tackling is practiced in practice, but I understand you wouldn't want to hurt your teammates, but at the same time, like, you got to stop these guys. I mean, I think a lot of the points that Ottawa put on the board was as a result of not being tackled and just getting extra yardage that otherwise they wouldn't have had because, like I said, some of the tackles were just bad, just really bad. I mean, like I said, I really felt like they were playing two-hand touch and not, making an effort to wrap anyone up. And I get it, like especially too when you're up by 30 plus points at this point, especially too when it's like in the fourth quarter, you just want to get out of there. You just want to go home. This lead is safe. I know that the CFL likes to say no lead is safe, but trust me, folks, this lead was safe by the third quarter. I mean, like I said, Montreal was on another level, and Ottawa, unfortunately, was just desperately chasing their own tail, trying to play catch up. And I mean, they got some points. I'll give them props. They got points on the board, especially when Dominique Davis got into the game. But I mean, like some of those points shouldn't have even been put up there in the first place. And like I said, it's just the tackling. Like I get it. You want to make sure nobody gets hurt, but at the same time, like you got to have a little bit of pride, and you got to put that stamp out there, not just offensively but defensively as well.
Yeah, the Alouettes had 7 total penalties. 6 were accepted for 74 yards. The Ottawa Red Blacks had 10 for 134. We were talking about bad things. The kicking. 2, and I'm not worried. I'm not worried yet. But, having Matt Schiltz now as our holder, we had 2 missed field goals. Both you and I were like, well, you wanted that 50 burger badly. And we got it at the end of the game because, as I told you during the game, and I don't know if many people think about this type of thing, that they went for the extra point. I don't think necessarily to get to 50, but because it's a divisional game and you want to score as many points as possible in a divisional game. That's the same thing what Hamilton did when they played us.
Of course.
So, are you worried yet about the kicking game?
Not at all.
Field goals, because David Cote, I don't know.
3 for 5 is not terrible. I mean,
no.
I think, again, he missed from the 50 and from the 41. So, I mean, like, he was able to drain a 50-plus yard field goal against Edmonton. Was it Edmonton? No, sorry, against Calgary, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, we know he's got the leg and different holder now. I mean, I don't know if it was the snap or just something was off. I mean, sometimes things happen. The guy's not perfect, so I mean, but 3 of 5 is still nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not worried at all. I think Cote has definitely proven himself to be a more than capable kicker. I think it's just a matter of just making sure everything falls into place. I mean, now he's working with Schiltzy to get the ball down and keep it down properly. Doesn't have to worry about anything else. Long snapping, I think that's gotten under control a little bit now after a couple of shaky starts. But like I said, things just happen. I mean, am I worried? No, not in the least. I think Cote has definitely proven himself, and I think he's only going to get better with time too. Let's not forget, folks, he is a rookie as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
He had a very good career with the Laval Rouge or, and was very accurate there, and he's proven himself to be able to handle the stress of playing for a professional football team. So he's going to have the occasional miss. It happens.
Yeah.
So no, not going to worry just yet.
Yeah. One thing I was very impressed was with David Cote on kickoffs. I mean, he averaged almost 64 yards on kickoffs, which is good.
Guy's got a leg.
Yeah, Zemo, Joseph Zemo only had to punt once, but he punted it for 41 yards, so still.
Yeah. I don't even know if they had to wash his uniform afterwards. That's not a knock on him. I mean, if you're only punting once, that means your team's doing something right. So.
Mm-hmm. So other than that, Cliff, the only thing that I saw too was what I thought was interesting is that Coach Kahari pulled VA, and then Schultz came in, and then he was immediately sacked for a safety, and then VA played the rest of the game. Yeah,
for the most part, and that's well, no, Schultz did manage to get in a couple more reps. Towards the end.
A couple of reps near the end of the game where he did, yeah.
And that's what you have to do. I mean, like I said, we didn't have a preseason this year, so I mean, you gotta get your reps where you can, especially too when you're leading by 30 plus points. You got to start playing your backups, and yeah, it was tough because his first series, poor Matt gets drilled in the end zone for a safety. I mean, and then almost immediately it felt like the confidence just wasn't there. So, and Kahari, I think he kind of panicked a little bit and said, okay, let VA get back in there. And I think they orchestrated another touchdown drive just to really build up that cushion again. And I get it. You want to win. You want to win at all costs. But I mean, at the same time, I don't want to leave my starting quarterback out there when you're up by 30 and the other team at that point pretty much doesn't give a rat's ass anymore. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of fight left in the Red Blacks by the fourth quarter. So
he was put in originally with about 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. It just and then again VA came in and then Schultz came in. I think it was last little bit of the fourth. So, anything else? I mean, again, so many positives. Yes, people may say this is Ottawa, but again, as I mentioned, I think I mentioned to you, and I may have mentioned on the pod. No, I don't think I mentioned on the pod, is that I really think for the Alouettes to contend in the East this year, they need to take advantage of these games versus the Red Blacks, and I think they need to win 3 or 4 or sweep this series. Do you have any other negatives that you saw during this game?
Honestly, no. I mean, like the ones we did see that we talked about. I mean, obviously those were the more glaring ones, but I mean, I think there's no such thing as a perfect game, quite frankly. But I think the Alouettes played as close to a perfect game as possible. I think Vernon needed this game. He needed this win badly, and he was on a mission. And he wasn't going to stop until the clocks reached 0. And you saw it in the way he played. I mean, like this team did everything right as far as offensively, defensively. Special teams could have been a little bit better, but I mean, this team did what it had to do, quite frankly. And you're right. They played the Red Blacks 3 more times. If you can sweep all 4 of those games, divisional games no less, I mean, that's going to be huge. I mean, even if you do that, I mean, you're sitting at 5 and whatever, because these are the games that are going to count more towards the end of the season. And I think Ottawa too is going to make changes. Obviously, they're going to have. I don't know how much faith they have left in Matt Nichols after that performance and from the week before. Either he's hurt bad and they're just trying to downplay it, or something's just not working within the system. Once Dominique Davis got into the game, things settled down a little bit more, but I think at that point it was too little too late, and Montreal was just not going to be denied this past Friday. They proved that they were on a mission. They wanted to prove that they were that team that you saw out in Edmonton. They weren't that team that you saw against Calgary and Hamilton. And to me, that's key. Is you're going to have to, and that's what this Alouettes team is going to have to do again. They're going to have to prove that they are that team, that they are the team that can go in and be dominant. And people are going to doubt this team. And I think that's what's going to fuel them more than anything else, is the fact that people are like, yeah, but look at what you did against Calgary, and look at that stinker you did against Hamilton. The best way to erase those thoughts, those doubts that people have, you got to win. And not just against Ottawa, you got to beat every opponent. You've got to go. You got to go into with the mindset that you are going to kick everyone's ass. And I think that's what was missing in Montreal, in the games against Calgary and even Hamilton too. Was they didn't think that they thought that it was a gimme. I really truly think that they were looking past it. And I think now they walked into Ottawa, which again like everybody thought this was going to be a gimme. I don't think they approached it with that mindset. They wanted to leave no doubt that they can beat this team and beat them thoroughly. And they sure as heck did.
Oh, they sure did. And it was fun to see. I mean, I think but again, as you said, we don't need to get don't get lazy when it comes to playing Ottawa. By the way, while you were talking, I happened to look it up. It was Jermaine Grace was on the practice roster in week 4, and the person that was, and I'm trying to see who he replaced, Ahmed Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
On the roster.
Ahmed Thomas, actually.
Am I reading it wrong? Yes, sorry. So I'm trying to check the depth chart here real quick. Yeah, he was placed on the 1-game injured list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ahmed Thomas. Yeah, sorry, Ahmed Thomas was placed on the 1-game injured list. So we missed that one.
Well, and also what was disappointing too was Marc-Antoine Decoy. This was his start, his first actual CFL start.
It was an early scratch, wasn't it?
No,
or late scratch.
No, he got injured.
Oh, okay. That's during something. Okay,
during the first series. So, and it was out for the game, which disappointing, especially too because we were actually surrounded by family members of his.
That's true.
That had to be tough. Especially too, you make the trip to Ottawa to watch. You finally get the chance to watch your kid play, and injured during the first series. That's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah. Don't have a game this week.
I know. How we're going to do with ourselves.
I know. I was trying to find out, and yes, I know it's a different circumstance this year with the shorter schedule and stuff like that. And I was reaching out to Steve Daniel. I'm trying to find out if this is this has to be since the bye week has been in official effect in the CFL. This has to be the earliest that a team has ever run through all of its bye weeks. Mm-hmm. Because usually I think there's 3 now, obviously.
Right.
But I'm curious to know if this is the earliest, though, because after this, we're done as far as bye weeks go. Yeah,
and it's funny, like the Alouettes usually have one of their bye weeks during the weekend after Labor Day. Mm-hmm. Because of the way things have worked out. I mean, you've got the 3 rivalry games, like the Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and then the battles of Alberta and Ontario, respectively, which kind of leaves sort of a 3-way between Ottawa, Montreal, and BC. So usually it's Ottawa, Montreal during Labor Day weekend, and then Ottawa will play BC, meaning that the Alouettes, their first, second, or well, I don't think it's ever been their 3rd bye week during that time, but at least one of their bye weeks has come on the second, the rematch week, if you will, of the Labor Day rivalries.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad they've switched it over to Ottawa because it's usually been BC for us. So, I'm happy with what it was, but again, if we go all the way through to the Grey Cup, it'll be, is it 13 straight weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
It'll be a grind. Unless we win the division, then you do get that 1 week off.
Yeah.
If that's not a motivating factor for these guys now, knowing that they're going to be pretty much playing nonstop right up into December, to me that's a heck of a an incentive. And Hamilton, like I said, they're starting to find their form again. So I mean, like this has the potential to be a dogfight. I mean, now you've got 3 teams in the East that are now 2-2 and looking very competitive. So
true, but let's wait to see what they do against the other teams still in the West.
Mm-hmm.
For all we know, if Hamilton goes 0-4 in the West, that's 5 losses. That puts him at 9-5.
Right.
Well,
and Hamilton's
okay.
No.
No. I'm not going to give them a winning versus us. What am I talking about? That'll put them at 8-6. If anybody doesn't like it, come at me, dude.
And listen, I mean, you look at what Ottawa did last Friday. I mean, yes, they lost, but I mean, they managed to put points on the board. They seem to find themselves a little bit too. I mean, obviously, changes are going to have to be made in Ottawa before things get, I mean, they're what, 1-3 now. But things can turn around for them as well. You just never know. And that's why you got to appreciate a win like this, but you can't take these guys lightly. You can't assume it's going to be a gimme every single week against the Ottawa Red Blacks.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping that, you got to savor this win, but I hope Montreal realizes that, you're playing these guys 3 more times. You're not going to have, a result like this every single time. But I think this team is going to be well prepared, especially regardless of the opponent. I think they now see what they are capable of doing. I think this win was a major confidence boost.
Yeah.
And when they get back to from the bye week, they're going to prepare for a BC Lions team that the jury is still out on. I mean, they've got some good pieces in place, and when they're on, they're a very effective team. But
yeah,
I mean, nothing's guaranteed, and it's not going to be easy. The only saving grace really is the fact that the Alouettes are only going to play them once this year, and it's going to be in Montreal, where they've had slightly better success against the Lions at Percival Molson Stadium versus out in BC Place.
And that's obviously what we'll revisit next week once we preview the game. Now, you bring up BC. There was something that was, I joke about this all this time with as long as I've been doing podcasts and joke with my other fellow podcasters, whenever they tape, news always breaks after the fact. The CFL has finally decided that when the Elks and Argos are going to make up that game, that was
postponed.
That was postponed due to the COVID situation with the Elks, which gives them 3 games in 7 days. Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. Because of that, there's been a slight modification to the it's weird how there's a slight modification to the Alouettes schedule. That the Saturday, November 13th game against Winnipeg, which was originally supposed to kick off at 4 p.m., will now be kicking off at 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm happy about, because I will take any sort of sun in November at Percival Molson.
Any possibility of warmth would be definitely welcome. So
some. Yeah, because at that time, as everybody knows, the sun is already, daylight, the clocks have already gone forward. We lose that extra hour because we would probably, the game would have been.
Go back.
It would have been, it would have been gone back. So it would have been dark by the time we left that game. So this way, so. But that as far as that's the update for the schedule itself. So luckily, unlike the other games that were modified because of this new game where it was placed, we come off easy. And I it's funny, dude. When I was looking at the schedule, I really thought I should have put money down that in some way, shape, or form, an Owls game was going to be affected in some way. I should have put money down. I just had that feeling that that's what was going to be the case.
I just couldn't imagine that anything would have changed with the schedule as a result of what goes on out west. But here we are.
Well, if this is the TV thing, and it makes me wonder what does TSN, what else does TSN have scheduled for that day now, being that the Alouettes were going to play earlier rather than later? I don't know.
Well, they'd be showing the second game with I think it's Edmonton, Saskatchewan.
Is that? Oh, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yes, because they switched time. Yeah, there's a difference of an hour, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. So, hey, tis what tis.
It is. I mean, like I say, it's bizarre because, we consider Montreal to be so far removed from this whole kerfuffle with the Elks and the Argos, but, now we get to see the game that we were going to go see anyways. I think we were all set to go see it at 4:00, but now if you want to show it a lot sooner, that's fine. As you said, get a little bit more sunshine, or, finishes in good time and, go out and hopefully celebrate a nice victory.
Yep, fine by me. So we will be back next week. Talk about the matchup versus the BC Lions, and we got a couple of ideas that we're trying to come up with, and we're already going through Cliffy's Rolodex to try to find out who we're going to bring in next week, as far as a guest goes. But
and also too, folks, if you're looking for us to speak with somebody, just shoot us a message over on Twitter. Just add us at Alouettes Flightdeck, or either myself or Tim. Say, hey, we'd love to hear from fill the name here. Let us know, and if we can make it happen, we certainly will. I mean, this is your show too, folks. So feel free to participate. Let us know what's going on. I mean, any sort of feedback, positive, negative, what have you. I mean, that's what we're here for. We want to do everything we can to bring you folks the best show possible. Best way to do that, though, is let us know what we're doing. If we're doing it right, tell a friend. If we're doing it wrong, tell us.
Yes. Don't tell a friend, because then we won't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we look forward to talking with you guys next week. Again, keep up with our social media to see if any breaking news comes about over this next week. I'm sure it's gonna be a very quiet week, but hey, you never know, something may drop tomorrow. So, the joys of being a podcaster. Anyways, so
that's podcasting 101.
There you go.
You put out an episode, and that's when everything just, all the news decides to break right there and then.
Yes.
You just got to roll with it, folks.
Exactly. So for everybody here at Alouettes Flightdeck, for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. Run final approach.